Hello, in this video we're going to talk about variables in Python. Before we get started, as I mentioned in the previous video, we are going to need a better code editor. For that purpose, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. So you can go to codevisualstudio.com and download the latest version available for your operating system. And after that, you can go ahead and install it. If you are a Windows user, make sure that Add to Path is checked. Now, to keep our project organized, I'm going to create a folder in one of my drives and use that for my Python projects. So I'm just gonna create a new folder and name it Python projects. And inside this, let's create a demo project. So I'm just gonna create another folder and name it demo. So we can go ahead and open the Visual Studio Code. Now to open a folder, we can just go to the file and open folder. After that, I can navigate to the Python projects folder and choose the folder that contains all the project files. So let's select that and we can trust this folder. Now, as you can see on the left side of our screen, there is the Explorer, which can help us to see all files inside our projects. Right now there is no file, so we're going to create one. Using this button here, we can create a new file. So I'm gonna name it app.py. Note that the second we created the Python script, Visual Studio is going to give us a recommendation to install Python extension. So even if you didn't get the recommendation, you can go ahead and open the extensions tab right over here. And here just search for Python. And in the list, you can go ahead and install Python extension by Microsoft. Now let's go back to our app.py script. So as we learned in the previous video, we can just use print to output a text in our terminal. So one of the good things about code editors is that once you write a few words of a function, it's going to provide you a list of possible options. So as you can see, I can just hit enter and it's going to complete the function for me. So let's open and close parentheses and put our message in a double quotations. One thing you should know about Python is that your code is going to be executed from top to bottom. Let's actually create another print and I'm going to say I'm learning Python. And let's save this. Now, if I run this script, first, this line is going to be executed, and after that, this line is going to be executed, and so on for all other lines here. So in the previous video, we learned if we want to run a Python script, we need to type Python followed by the path to the file in our terminal. Another good thing about code editors is that they give you the option to run the script just by clicking one button. Just like that. So by clicking this run Python file button right over here, we can execute our Python script. So as you can see, when I click that, a terminal is going to open up and it's going to say hello, which is the first print, and the second print, I'm learning Python. You can also go to the run and choose start without debugging. So it's gonna do the same thing, or you could also start debugging. All of these options are going to execute your script for you. Now let's start learning about variables. So variables are containers to store data. For example, if you ask user what is your name and he gives you a name, let's say he says John, so you need to put that name inside a variable. All variables have a label, so you can choose any label that you want for your variables, and a variable gets created the second you assign the value for it for the first time. For example, up here before our print, I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to choose first name as its label. And then we're going to assign the value by saying equals to, and because our name is a string, we need to put it inside double quotations or single quotations. We have different types of variables. We have string variables, which are the text. We also have integer variables, which are whole numbers. Let's say we want to get the age of our user and put it inside a variable. So let's do that. Let's create a variable named age. So So I'm going to say age equals to, let's say 30. So because our age is not a string, which is not a text, we don't have to put it inside quotations. So integers, as I mentioned, are whole numbers. We could also create variables with decimal points. Let's say we want to get the score of our user. We could assign the value of, let's say, 10.58. So this is going to be a float variable. We have another type of variable which is called Boolean. Booleans are variables who only get two values, either true or false. It's like a yes or no. Let's say we want to check to see if our user is online or not. So in order to do that, we're going to create an isOnline variable, and we can assign either true or false to this variable. Let's say true. Note that the first letter of true and false are uppercase. By the way, if your variable's label is more than one word, you can use underscore to separate those words. You cannot just use a space like this, you'll get an error. So you'll have to use underscore to separate different words inside your variable's label. So in Python, you can combine strings using plus sign. So here, let's say we want to print hello John. In order to do that, I'm going to add a plus sign here, and I'm going to use first name variable. This way, it will print hello plus whatever value is inside the first name variable. We could also give it a space here, and let's remove this. I'm going to save this and let's run it. As you can see here, it says hello John. So let's also print the age. So I'm gonna say you are, add a plus, and then add a age plus. I'm gonna open double quotation again. I'm gonna write years old. So it's gonna print you are plus age. So it's gonna put whatever value is inside the age variable, and it's also going to add years old. So let's run this. Note that you are going to get an error. The reason is that we are trying to add an integer to string, and that is not going to work. So in order to print the age, we need to convert it to a string first. Python has a built-in function for that. So let's take a look at the Python built-in functions. The built-in functions to convert a variable to a string is str. So let's take a look. It will return a string version of the object. So let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to put age as a parameter for str function. So I'm going to say str, and I'm going to open and close parentheses, and I'm going to pass age. So it's going to take the age and convert it to the string. Now, if we run this, it's going to say, hello, John, you are 30 years old. Now here we assign the variables ourselves. Sometimes you want to get the variables from the user, so user can enter any value that they want. In order to get an input from the user, there is a built-in function. So let's go ahead and take a look. The built-in function called input. We can use input to get a value from the user. So let's go ahead and try this. So first name equals to, instead of assigning the value, we're gonna get the value from the user using input. So I'm gonna say input, and we need to pass a string. For example, what is your name? So let's put it inside double quotations because we need to pass a string, and we're gonna say what is your name, and then at the end it's better to add in a space to make sure your question and your answer is not going to stick together. And now if I save this and run this, it will print what is your name inside the terminal, and it waits for me to give it an answer. So let's put a name here. I'm going to type Mike and hit enter. It's gonna say hello Mike, you are 30 years old. So it's gonna put Mike inside first name variable, and then it's gonna print it right over here. Now let's also get the age from the user. So in order to do that, let's say input, and I'm gonna pass a question. I'm gonna say when is your birthday year? So right now the year is 2023. So whenever the user gives you a year, you need to subtract it from 2023. Let's actually change this variable to input age, and here create another variable, call it age equals to 2023 minus input age. So this way you can calculate the age of your user. But this is going to give you an error. Now let's run this. It asks me what is your name. I'm gonna say Mike. What is your birthday year? Let's say 1994, and it's gonna give me an error. The error is on line 4, and it is this line that is causing the error, and the error is you cannot subtract a string from an integer. So input age is in a string. Input function returns in a string. So in order to use that string, we need to convert it to integer first. To do that, we have a built-in function and it is called int. We can use that to convert a value to integer. So here, instead of input age, I am going to say int input age. And now if I run this, if I say Mike 1990, and it's gonna say, hello Mike, you are 33 years old. So basically, you need to be careful about different types of variables and always use the proper conversion. There is also another built-in function called float, which is going to convert the value to a float, which is a decimal point number. You can run many different operations on your variables. For example, you can subtract them like this. If you want to add two variables together, you're going to use plus sign. If you want to divide a number by another number, you're going to use the slash operator. If you want to multiply them, you're going to use a star. And there is a bunch of other operators which we are going to cover in the next videos. I'm going to finish the video right here. So if you had any questions, feel free to send me an email or send me a message in the Discord. The link is in the description. Also, make sure to like and subscribe the video. Thanks for watching.